Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the ISC Remote Management webinar. We'll be starting shortly. Glad to see you joining us. See, we've got people joining us as we speak here. We'll be going in just a minute or so. Hang tight. All right, everyone, welcome. This is Tony Fleischman with ISE. Our session today, our Lunch and Learn session today is focused specifically on managed services and the offerings that ISE has for our IBM and Infor XA customers, specifically to take on some of the system management and the monitoring of those systems. It's about a half-hour event today. If you do have questions as we go through, you should have a little panel on your screen that you can open up and either ask it in the Q&A panel or the chat panel. Either one is fine. And we will be monitoring that as we go through the session. We've got about a 30-minute session planned for today. So welcome aboard, everyone. So what the first part here is what are managed services and what do they do? So specifically, I'm going to just turn on my camera here for a second so you can see who's talking to you. Okay, so what are managed services? So it's really about monitoring your system on a day-to-day basis. You see two key pieces there: core system monitoring and performance monitoring. So managing that system, watching that system, how is it performing? It's about job management, both applications and print job and the operating system, what's going on in that system all day, every day, and then administration. Getting onto that system for operating system functions, file systems, job schedulers, users and roles. So if you think of it, the very core part of it is we monitor it, we manage it, and then we provide the administration over your system. Why might you need this? So what we're seeing, we work with a lot of IBM customers. We have for 20, 30 years. And what's changing out in the world these days is that people are needing more resources to do different things. But their IBM resources are changing. So if you have an IT team, generally we're putting more and more workload on the IT team themselves. At times we have staff reductions, retirements, or departures that even strains those even more. And that kind of contributes to this third bullet right here of the limited IBM expertise. So quite often we see IT teams that may have a little IBM expertise or sometimes even none. And in the multiple hats that they wear, just maintaining that system is a challenge. And it kind of leads to this issue right here, the lack of focus on mission critical systems. And we'll hear our customers at times talk about that black box in the computer room. Yeah, so literally they know very little about that IBM server that's sitting there running their business all day, every day. It just chugs along. The good news is it's a black box that keeps chugging along and doing everything it does. The bad news is sometimes there's very little knowledge about that system. And it leads to this question right here of, are we managing the IBM server as we should? And sometimes that's an uncomfortable question because you know, your system backups, your security, your performance, all those types of things. Again, it's that black box that's sitting there in the corner. Are we managing it the way we should? And that can lead to unpredictable costs for system management. You need emergency types of calls, upgrades, all those kinds of things. And can you do a better job of planning for those events as compared to just having them occur and then reacting to them as they happen? So with that, I do want to open up a quick poll. So bear with me 1 second. Monica, are we showing the poll right now?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It's popped up here.
So we'll just wait about 30 seconds if you're okay to answer these questions here about day-to-day administration. You know, what are some of your day-to-day challenges? The administrative tasks, the uncertainties of system backups, lack of internal expertise, concerns about system management, those types of things. You can just let us know any perspectives you have or anything else that might be on your mind. Just go ahead and enter that as the other, and we'll follow up with you at the end. So I'll leave this open for just a few more seconds. All right, thank you. So we will use that and follow up with you as we go through this event and follow-up sessions. So that kind of covers, you know, what are the likely scenarios that you run into as far as needing managed services. But then that leads to the question, what do managed services provide to you? So first of all, we align to best practices. So we have systems people who are IBM educated. Many of them are longtime IBM expertise with system management, programming, development, applications, you name it. So focused on system policies, backups, and monitoring. Is that system healthy? And are we monitoring it at a regular basis? Reduce costs. So reduce salary if you've lost your IBM resources or you don't have any. Can we be that resource for you so you don't need to go and hire somebody to do that? The salary, the benefits, the equipment, etc., to bring on somebody new. And can we give you a predictable cost for that system management? And the answers to both those are yes. Third is gaining access to worldwide capabilities. So again, we've got our team at ISE. Many of you work with us on a regular basis. And so this system is manned by IBM experts, but then we also have our team behind them as a secondary line of resources. If we start talking about system upgrades, application details, those kinds of things. ISE is a team of about 30 people. So we tap on those people all the time to help us with whatever might be coming in from the customer base. Offloading functions that are difficult to manage and control. So if something is going on your system, you know, let's say a runaway job or something like that, you don't quite know what caused it. Doesn't happen very often, so you probably don't understand exactly what's going on. And you wonder, okay, what do I do about this? Our monitoring and our tools will help us to catch that, and in many cases point it out to you proactively as compared to you wondering, you know, what's going on in the system. That's done on a continuous basis for the core system status. The other point too is it's preemptive. So if we see things like errors on the system, for instance, the IBM will notify you if a power supply is down or a cache battery is going out or something like that. If you're not monitoring that and seeing those system messages, you miss them. You might have a system disk that's starting to fill up. All those kinds of things, we would be preemptively following that, monitoring it, and really that focuses then on reducing the risks and downtime because we catch it preemptively and it never even occurs, as compared to something that crashes the system or really just compromises the system. We're one step ahead of that. So how does it work? If you follow up here, these would be systems out in the field, maybe running IBM I, the operating system, Infor XA. By the way, we have two specific offerings that combine together. We have many of our customers run Infor XA, but many of our customers are just IBM I customers running with custom systems or other applications. We can do both. The third-party area, quite often we're aware of third-party applications. We're aware of how to work with those companies. I don't want to position us as being experts on every one of the third parties that's out there, but we know where the operating system ends and where the third-party applications begin. The bottom line is we're using a tool called Maxava Monitor MI8. Maxava is a good partner of ours that provides this tool. That tool gets installed on your system. It sends alerts then to our monitoring system back at ISE in the cloud. And so we're monitoring that throughout the day. Those alerts and so on can go to our consultants' cell phones or to our operations center, either one. So we're monitoring that on a regular basis as far as what's going on in those systems. In most cases, again, happening behind the scenes. So what does monitoring mean? The proactive monitoring, first of all, let's go down the IBM I side. So that includes printer management, print queues, things like that. It's amazing sometimes how many issues we have with just printers and keeping them, if they're not working, if they are working, those kinds of things. And these days with people needing special labeling requirements, all kinds of things as far as outbound orders that need that special labeling, we're seeing that labeling and printing are a mission critical part of your system. Application job management. So are the jobs on hold? Do we have unattached jobs that are running? Do we have failed jobs that are running? You ran something that didn't run. Well, what happened to it? Where'd it go? Is it queuing up? Is it clogging up the system? Those kinds of things. Hang on. IBM administration functions. So monitoring operating system functions, job logs, system space. So again, monitoring that the size of your file system, is it filling up? Scheduling jobs. There might be jobs that you run on a daily basis, and you're saying, geez, can I automate this? Can I make it more efficient at startup time in the morning? Anytime you IPL the system, those kinds of things. We use the IBM job scheduler. IBM has put a lot of advanced functions into the job scheduler that we can automate, and then monitoring those jobs over time. And then also performance monitoring. These days, quite often, we're seeing customers that are having systems in a 5, 6, 7-year lifespan. That's great as far as getting a lifespan like that out of a system. But over time, we start to see that, okay, maybe there's more users on the system. Maybe there's a lot of stuff running on the system in the background that's kind of consuming too many cycles. So that performance monitoring is something we do related to the CPU, your memory usage, your users, your disk space, you name it. We're monitoring that by default. So we do a lot of monitoring of that core IBM I system. Secondly, if you are running Infor XA, then we start looking at, okay, if you think of the XA footprint that used to be there, it was a small little Infor Mapix Inc. green screen footprint. Well, that's changed a bunch into the Infor development framework. Things like PowerLink and NetLink, Link Manager, some of those background systems that your users never see. But we can monitor those background applications. Are they running? Are they consuming too much memory? How are they running, et cetera? Just a lot of stuff going on in behind the scenes with Infor XA these days. Administration functions. Again, back to drive space, restarting applications and that whole infrastructure underneath the green screen. Spool file management. Lots of people use spool files, not only just for printing, but they will report off spool files. They can get kind of cumbersome after a while. We'll do some of that spool file management for you. Things that maybe your average user doesn't know even what a spool file is. Application message queues. A lot of things going on in that system. Monitoring that queue. Is there something going wrong? Is it just noise in the system that we need to clean up? You name it, we're on that. Managing logs within the application as well. Application logs, taking corrective action if it's needed, or sometimes just getting rid of it. And then the final topic there is the backup scenarios that you have. Infor XA provides a backup. We have many customers that use that. We have others that will use their own custom backups. We can get on those systems, take a look at what's working, what's not as far as the backups, backup schedules, backup and notify issues, restoring. So if you want to, we have some customers that will restore, sometimes they want to get back to something that was from a month ago and just looking at a file or something like that, all the way to some bigger restores that maybe people are saying, okay, I need a test environment set up, something like that. So we can get involved in those types of topics as well. So that's really related to the monitoring side, but what about the on-demand side? And this is all included. What I'm going to go through on this page is included in the managed services offering. So if we are at an operating system level, authorization and management, you want to add a user, change some profiles, suspend tasks as assigned, password resets, or on the same side, getting rid of users. So that user management, who's got access to your system. That's something that you're probably not doing frequently, but something that's critical, obviously, if you're bringing in new people or cycling people through. At the same point in time, at the application level, we can get involved with, again, modifying and adding users at that level. First, we have to add them at the system level. Secondly, we add them in the application, user profiles and security. You might have certain roles that you want to set up and so on. We can add those roles to the system so that we can add new users to those roles. Manage privileges, password changes as well. So there's overlap here between the first two, but it's really about keeping the operating system and the applications on your system fully in sync. Some applications are very good at that. Some are almost separate, where at the OS level, I manage at one level, at the application, I manage at another. And then we have incident management. So these days, if you're logging incidents with IBM or with your application such as Infor XA, we can help with that. Maybe getting you authorized first and foremost. Secondly, how do you log in? How do you get access? Or do you want us to simply manage those incidents? Maybe we log something to, like getting the cache battery replaced or something like that. That happens through IBM, but we can help you with, okay, we've identified you got a cache battery issue. Let's log that incident with IBM and really take that hassle off your hands. I think sometimes when we suggest that people call IBM, their first question is, who do I call and what am I going to tell them? We can help with that kind of effort. What about things beyond managed services? So this would be what we, inside managed services, we don't provide patch management or application patch management, but we get exposed to a lot of things on your system. Maybe you're running a version of i7.3 and there's a security patch out from IBM. We can see that we're at that point, we need to apply the patch, or maybe we should just move you to a new operating system. We can work with you then. Okay, we've identified some kind of shortcoming, some kind of scenario that we think needs some effort. How do we get started with those patches? Now we can do that at the Infor XA level, at patch management as well. So those kinds of efforts needed to just where we can use that proactive effort to be focused on, hey, we suggest the following services. Generally, they're not urgent, but over the course of some period of time, the next month or 2 or 3, we really suggest that to do the following to your systems. If you are in a partition system, IBM has the hardware management console. That's that black box that sits and manages your system. If you're not in a partition, you just have a local PC as your console generally, so they don't need any attention. But if you get into multiple partitions, or if you want to get in multiple partitions to add in things like Sandbox or maybe a separate company or things like that, we can help you with the setup of that system. First of all, speccing, can your current system handle partitioning? If we do, how would we add it? How would we update it? So we can help you there as far as logical partitioning, moving resources, using that hardware management console, et cetera. We do that quite often. And then finally, IBM Backup and Recovery. So the BRMS, Backup Recovery and Media Services. I'm sorry, I just accidentally hit a button there. Backup and Recovery Media Services. So we're seeing that backups are becoming one of the key challenges for our customers. In some cases, we'll ask, when was the last time you ran a backup? Some customers know, some customers don't. Where is your last backup? Some customers know, some customers don't. Some are very, very organized. Others, again, it kind of gets back to the black box issue. So we would generally work to look at, if you want to really get a comprehensive approach to your backups, and I want to talk about another offering we have here shortly, is you want us to get involved to truly confirm that you've got a good, solid backup and retention policy, full system saves, periodic saves, what tasks are done, and then also how do you restore? I think there's a lot of focus in the world of, okay, I've got my backup, but if you challenge our customers of how do you do a restore, many, in very good news, they've never had to do a restore, or very, very rarely do, but if they do, they don't know where they would start. We can help with that. So how quickly do we respond? So 3 levels there. So the monitoring services using that Maxava MI8 software, that's going to tell us that there's something going on. Our targeted response time is within 1 business hour, and our targeted resolution time is within 4 business hours during the day, 8 by 5 on a daily basis, standard business hours. Our support services, so if you're calling and saying, hey, I've got to add a user, some of those more reactive services that are still included with the offering, Our goal is to respond within 4 business hours, and our target completion is within 8 business hours. So same day type of service on both of these. I can tell you that in generally we're responding immediately if we're seeing something coming in here, and as fast as possible on the support services. Then there's additional services. Let's imagine that as we've gone through and you come back and say, I'd really like to work with ISE on an OS upgrade to get into the latest version of the operating system. We respond very quickly on, okay, let's get started. And it really, the resolution of that is based on scope. If it's something like an operating system upgrade, we're probably going to work with you then as saying, okay, this is about a 10-hour downtime period. What weekends are available to do it? When can you tolerate downtime on your system? When does your business tolerate downtime on your system? And how do we get started? So it's based on the scope of that upgrade, your customer timeline and priority, and available resources for both you and us if it's a special weekend or something like that. So scheduled as needed, including weekends. What do we need to get started? And this is a quick checklist. Within about an hour on your system, working with someone at your company, we can quickly understand the number of IBM servers to monitor, the number of partitions, the number of environments, the number of users, what version of the operating system in Infor XA, if you're running Infor XA, and then also your processor group. So that's generally accomplished within about an hour. We can then, once we understand a little bit about your system, are there any anomalies we have concern with of starting up? But generally it's okay. We see you're running the system all day, every day. It's mission critical to you, and we get a profile of that system to get us started, and we then create a work order and a contract accordingly. What is this? I'm sure all of you are thinking, what does all of this cost? So our pricing is at $2,500 per month for a single server or partition. So that $2,500, there's no special startup fees. There's no additional fees beyond that. If you have a single system and a single partition, that's where you're at. And many of our customers start just with that single partition, single system. We do have customers, if you have additional partitions, they are generally less than $2,500 for a second or third or fourth partition as we ramp up. But we know a lot about you. The software is already on your system to monitor it. We're just monitoring other partitions to move forward. So pretty straightforward approach to getting started, pretty straightforward approach to the pricing. Gives you that predictable spend month by month, year by year, and really has worked out very, very well to, again, coming back to what I discussed right at the beginning of why people need this kind of service. So what are our customers saying? Tim McWillan is the CFO at Milwaukee Forge. Milwaukee Forge is a company we worked with for over 25 years. And to some degree, we were providing them with managed services all along. If they had questions, issues with resources on their IBM server, on their XA, we were, first line of defense for them of, hey, I've got this particular scenario that's brewing today, or some kind of project I'm working on. So what changed here is we went to a contractual basis and said, okay, we'll provide these managed services to you. And we're monitoring that system all day, every day. And this is the kind of response that we see is just, we take some of the gray areas out of, are we available to them on any given date? Are we responding to what's going on? And we're automating it. So that monitoring system, in many cases removes the human interaction. We may be fixing issues on your system before you ever even know you have an issue. So nice message there from Tim. What about beyond managed services? And this is what we're seeing quite often is customers are saying, I've moved in my PC world. I no longer use tapes. I've gone to cloud-based backups. Can I do the same on my IBM server? And that answer is yes. And the big point there is get rid of those tapes. We'll often have customers saying, everywhere else in my company, I don't have tapes, but I still have a tape drive for my system, for my IBM server. And I still need to swap tapes every day. And it's just, and sometimes people don't even know why they're swapping them. But can you get rid of those tapes? And the answer is yes. And we'll have some customers say, well, wait a minute, I really like my tape. The suggested method from IBM is actually, if you have a tape drive, keep that in place, use it for the infrequent backups, full system saves that you might run quarterly or once a year or something like that. And then you run your incrementals to a file and then up to the cloud. So it still gets you your daily backups, your monthly backups, your weekly backups, whatever your backup and retention policy is. but we're going to a file and then moving those up to the cloud. The term that's common out there is VTL, a virtual tape library. So we're backing those, your regular daily backups to a file. And we can basically, once we have them in the file, we can put them anywhere. And the VTLs manage those files, can understand where they're going, what they're doing, and then we get them offsite up into the cloud. So drastically reducing the tapes. You can get down to zero if you want to go that far. Many customers, like I said, want to hang on to that one full system save. That kind of leads us to the next level of disaster recovery. So if I have my tapes and my backups already in the cloud, well, what if I have a major system catastrophe on my premise? Maybe the system itself starts on fire. Maybe your building starts on fire, flooding, theft, whatever. If I already have my data up in the cloud, do I have options to move that to an IBM server in the cloud? And that answer is yes as well. So it kind of propagates upon itself. It's okay, I've got my data up there. Could I go into some kind of DR strategy that says, can I test this in a cold, warm, or hot spare scenario? Meaning that, okay, I've got it up there. Can I work with ISE to spin up a server for me? Literally hours or a couple days, and we've got a server spun up. Then we do the restore from your file in the cloud, and you could test and say, okay, I can see that A, my backups are working. B, I could count on something to have me running in a day or two, or something like that, where I know that my downtime now is much more controllable. The position that we set with customers, or the expectation we set with customers, is that if you have a single system and it starts on fire, or some catastrophe, we're probably looking at 3 to 7 days to get you some kind of a system back in place. Maybe we're renting it, maybe we're finding something used on the market, whatever that is. We're in a scrambling mode to go get that system, get it in place, get it networked, get the systems installed, etc., to have you running again. The DR approach allows you to compress that to hours or a couple days, as compared to this very unpredictable of what would I do. So you can start looking at, again, cold, warm, or hot spares. A hot spare is actually a system you'd have in the cloud as a second system that's synchronized with your current system all day, every day. And that can be accomplished as well, both on-premise and in the cloud. So then if you go and say, okay, I've got my backups in the cloud, I've got a DR system in the cloud, do I really need this system on premise anymore? And that answer is no. You can go to cloud-based IBM I, put your system in the cloud, and what's called a lift and shift mentality. Okay, so we're literally lifting your footprint that you have today on premise and put it on a partition on an IBM server up in the cloud. So we're really reaching the point, if you can imagine it, you can probably do it. And then it's working with us to understand, okay, what is it that you really want to accomplish? What does your business want to accomplish at the executive level? Are they aware of things like, well, how much data you have at risk and how much recovery time you might have in the case of a disaster? What do you as IT people want to accomplish as well? What keeps you up at night? And if we can sit down and talk through, this is where you are with your IBM server today. Maybe you're comfortable with it. That's great. Maybe you look and say, geez, these conversations make me nervous. What am I going to do about something like this? We have those discussions quite often. And oftentimes they start with the discussion of, how is your current system? Are we 3 or 5 or 7 years in? Do we need to look at a new system? And at that point, it kind of triggers a lot of these other discussions about who manages it. What's the performance? Do you want to get another system on premise, or do you want to move to the cloud? So that really is wrapping up our message for today. If you want to get started, you receive this invitation from ISE. Monica Hill is also on the line with us today. You can reach her at these phone numbers and at this address. I know that many of you also know me personally. Feel free to send directly to me, Tony Fleischman at ISE. We'd love to have some opening discussions about what you heard from us today, any specific interests or concerns you have about your system, and how we can help. Monica, are you seeing any questions out there?
I don't see any questions yet, but I'll give everyone just a minute or two to type them in if they have something lingering. And I did just want to make a mention that notice we had a couple of people join about halfway through or later in the session. So we will be sending out a recording. It'll be going out tomorrow for those who might have joined a little bit later in the session. And we'll be able to review that at your leisure once that goes out tomorrow. So
Great, thank you.
yeah, I don't see any questions thus far.
Okay.
No.
This has been a real popular offering. And it kind of comes back to some of the missions, some of the opening slides there of why people consider this. And one of the biggest challenges is just having IBM skills on premise as part of your IT team. And people just wearing so many hats these days. And can you offload that IBM management and monitoring to someone like us? So we hope we can help you. If you have any questions, please let us know. And we hope to hear from you. Thank you, everybody.